All right, and we are going live in 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, everyone. Hello again. Thank you so much for joining me. Welcome back to our special Adobe video live stream series here on Adobe Live, Behance, Creative Cloud, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter Periscope, just to name a few social networks. Really great to have you here with us again. Thank you so much for joining. Very special content to show you coming up now with Alyssa Salter from FBE. Again, thanks to Francis Crossman, who was with us just moments ago from the Premiere Pro team. And thank you all for the incredible engagement. And thanks to my incredible Adobe colleagues, who all of whom are across all the various networks here answering your questions. This is a live interactive session. This is not just people presenting. We're taking your questions and answering them live. And that's the difference. We are here to listen. We are here to answer. And we are so appreciative that you can join us today. So, as I mentioned, we've got Alyssa Salter from FBE coming up next. You may know FBE from their 4 YouTube channels, which currently to date have amassed more than 34 million subscribers. So I thought we'd actually kick it off with Alyssa's reel to kind of inspire you. I'm not even going to tell you what the content is because even if you don't know FBE by name, you know their content. Let's take a look at the reel. Check this out. Here we go.
This is the new generation. This is the future.
Yeah, you're going down.
Yes! My mouth is on fire!
Julie,
Oh my
you
god.
are under arrest.
Oh my god, that scene!
This looks so hype. Whoa!
Ooh, endgame.
I don't know where they could go from this. Everyone died.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Nobody knows I'm gay.
I relate to this so much.
Not cool.
That's cool.
That is unique.
It looks just like the anime.
Die happy right now.
Oh my god.
Let's go!
What is this?
This is awesome! Well, thank you, darling.
Rhodes. Back to the future.
It's like you found that one thing that I've been missing from my childhood.
Wins!
Also didn't say does.
The sky is falling.
Just like Ender's Game.
We want to give a huge shout out to Cheerios.
Thank you so much to Kingdom Hearts.
Big thank you to Toys R Us for letting us come here and play.
Thank you so much to Mattel for supporting FBE.
Welcome to Hollywood, Millie.
Thank you so much for showing me that.
Content at the speed of culture, indeed. That was truly awesome. Alyssa Salter, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Adobe Video Livestream. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing, Jason?
So great. And gosh, I've seen that reel now quite a few times, and every time it just makes me laugh. But I mean, you've got not only quite a few recognizable faces in there, very impressive, but I mean, 34 million subscribers. I was so excited to talk to you today, and you've got this amazing deck that we're going to walk through in just a few minutes. But I thought maybe you could just start out by kind of telling everybody who you are, what FB is, how it kind of started, and then we'll kind of get into your presentation here.
Yeah. So FBE stands for Fine Brothers Entertainment. It was started by 2 brothers, Benny and Rafi Fine. They've been creating content since the early 2000s, but they launched FBE on YouTube in 2007.
Super early.
Yeah, super early days. Really ahead of the game. And we have now grown to 34 million subscribers. We have 4 YouTube channels now. And I got my start there as an intern actually back in 2013. So I've been there for quite some time. And I'm now, I just actually was promoted to post supervisor.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Congratulations.
As of last week.
Sweet.
But before I was an intern, then their first assistant editor actually moved on to editor, senior editor, and now post supervisor. So it's been quite a journey.
Quite the journey indeed. And I'm actually I want to get right into it because we only have about a half hour. So, and I know you've got a ton of stuff to show here and you put together this wonderful deck, but talking about humble beginnings, and then I'm going to let you drive and you just tell me to advance the slides as we go. But I wanted to cut to this first one here because I love it. You got the little arrow and everything.
Yes.
So this was the original kind of the team when you joined, right?
Yes. There's about 9 of us, I think, there.
Right.
So.
And 2013, what was do you recall kind of what the subscribership was then?
I think we just hit 1 million subscribers. I remember we'd actually have this post-it board and we'd put in like another million post-it after each other. So it'd be like 1 million, 2 million every time it went up. It was really cute.
That's so cool. So this is 2013.
Yeah.
Let's cut to last year.
Yeah.
You've grown a little.
Just a little bit.
The requirements have grown, the demands have grown. Yeah. And I imagine that's just kind of part of part of going from 1 to 34 million in such a short amount of time is that you're not only upping the production level, but you're upping the staff that's required to be able to push out all of that content. And I'm seeing, by the way, in the chats, tons of love, tons of hearts. Zarisha saying, I am one of 34 million. Yeah, me too.
Yay,
I think probably of all the thousands literally watching us live now, I imagine many of us are absolutely subscribed. So, but what we're really here to talk about today is kind of how Adobe in particular has really kind of helped you and kind of changed the way you're able to produce this content and do your work.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So let's go ahead. We're going to kick it. I'm going to minimize myself here. I'm going to reconfigure our views a little bit here to not get in the way of the slides, but I'm going to let you drive it and I'll be answering questions and I'll file them to you as they come in. Does that sound good?
Great. Sounds
awesome.
Great.
All right. Take it away, Alyssa.
Yeah. So Adobe actually came to us with Productions, which will be launching soon, if not now.
Yep. Just yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Right? Yeah. So we actually were in beta with them and just testing it out because we just have so much content that we're producing like weekly. And so we started playing around with that last month. So I'm just going to show you what we've been using Productions for. So as you can see on this first slide, this on the right-hand side, this little screenshot is all of our shows. There's many, many more. I couldn't fit all of them on.
Oh, yeah.
But, these are all of our different series across 3 of our 4 YouTube channels. It's a lot. Probably not organized the best way, but that's something I'm going to tackle when we're back from quarantine. But Productions is going to help us with that, actually. So
sweet.
Yeah. But on the next slide, yes. That's our current workflow. So we have AEs, our assistant editors, creating an episode folders within each series. So on the far left of that screenshot, you'll see all of our different formats and series across 3 of our YouTube channels. Once you go into that, so that first one that I'm demonstrating right now is OGAR, which stands for Adults React, which is on our OG channel, FBE, since that's our original channel. That's how we name this. So you'll see within that folder, we have multiple. So these are each of our episodes. We had a Bat Metal where we had adults reacting to this YouTuber that does Batman heavy metal episodes. It's really, really fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then you'll see Disney Plus memes and on and on. We did an Eminem Godzilla episode. So what our AEs are doing, they're taking all of those, that stock folder, all of those folders within there, duplicating it, and then copying it in within each episode. So that's a lot of footage, just multiplied footage that we probably don't need to multiply a lot.
And do you know I mean, I know this is one of those nerd questions, but like how much data are we talking about here, like in terms of footage and all the B-roll and everything else?
So much footage. I don't even know. It's probably...
I mean, it's gigs and gigs of it, right? I mean, it's...
Yeah, it's just one episode. And yeah, we have a lot of episodes. I think we're releasing before the quarantine about 5+ episodes a week on each channel. So it adds a lot. Yeah.
It adds up to a lot.
Yeah. But you'll see on this next thing that we had a lot. So each of that stock elements folder was duplicated, and that's 10 gigs, about 10 gigs. But as you can see, that'll add up even just alone within that one series. So it's a lot of footage. So we're starting to organize that, and productions has been just such a godsend as far as organizing this more and not duplicating assets that we don't need to duplicate as much.
And that is kind of one of the key elements of productions, is that it's very mindful and aware of preventing that duplication, right? That was kind of one of the fundamental keys to its usefulness and success, I imagine, for your team as well.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So this is our current file path that we'd have to use on the server. So we have to ask an editor, hey, can you work on OG AR 2004 Hype House today? So they'd have to go to the server, go through all these folders just to get to the project file, which, I mean, it doesn't take that much time, but when you're doing this constantly and like jumping between projects, it does add up.
Right, right.
So now with productions, this is our new workflow using productions. I've decided to organize our series by our channel. So as you can see on the left, we have channel and then FBE React, and then that's our Try Not To channel that we just launched in February.
Right.
And these are our different show formats, organized by what channel that they release on. So instead of that huge long list of all these formats, we now can organize it by the channel that these series are released on.
And one of the cool things too with productions, just to reemphasize for some who maybe have missed this the other day, is I imagine you have a lot of reusable elements, right? I mean, a lot of just graphical elements, sound elements. There's, of course, you have sound design and all that stuff. So productions not only makes it easier to obviously keep accessing those things because they're leveraged across multiple episodes, but it doesn't artificially inflate your projects either, which is kind of the key. Yeah, very, very cool.
Yeah, it's been really great not having to duplicate so much, because we do use a lot of templates across our series. So
awesome.
Really easy to pull from.
And this is kind of speaking to that right now. You've got a production for each series.
So now we have a production for each series. So I can have one production that'll house all of our episodes for the Adults React format, and then so on for each format after.
Nice. Bat metal. I don't know how I missed that one. I'm just, I'm definitely like, I don't know that one. I got to check that one out.
It's great. Right.
So this is great. This is actually this is lovely, because now people can very easily see sort of what the production panel looks like. And the nice thing is, it's not like we've reinvented the UI in any way. It still feels and works in a familiar way, but just a couple of new little icons that, you can see there, just slight differences, but just so much easier and organized, and just, I think visually appealing as well. Yeah.
So this is like mirroring our server, but it's housing all of our episodes for the Adults React series. So this is what the production panel looks like in Premiere. Very simple. It kind of looks like bins. It's really great. So now what we can do, instead of creating a new folder on our server, we can actually create new projects within the production panel, which is so easy. And now I can even have like my editors just jump between these different episodes as well without having to go back to our server. They can just jump between within Premiere through the production panel. It's been really, really great.
And I know this is something that came up the other day, but so now how many editors are just sort of, what would like a team per episode be in terms of like number of editors, maybe After Effects people, design teams?
Yeah. Well, we have at least two. We have the assistant editor and the editor.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we're kind of, we all kind of just help each other out wherever we need help. So it can be anywhere from 3 to 5, 6 people working on the same project.
Okay. But is that the typical size for a team to put out one of these episodes? Because that's still very lean, it seems.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're super quick. Yeah, it's pretty lean.
Awesome.
We have about 15 editors across all 3 channels, but we all just kind of pitch in and help each other out. And it's so easy with Adobe because it's so flexible and collaborative. So it's been great.
You are so very full of fantastic PR quotes. Unsolicited. Not hashtag sponsored. We did bring you on here, so I guess there's a little bit of sponsoring. But not asking you to say those things. That's what Productions does. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
that's why we are excited for it. But again, thank you for the quote.
Yes, of course.
PR thanks you. I'm very transparent. Okay. So I love this slide because this actually shows you now that Productions is doing a lot of that work for you and just kind of keeping things clean and organized and easy.
Very, very clean and easy now instead of that long list of different shows and formats.
Very nice. Okay. Next.
So yeah, like I was saying before, now we can just have editors in one production all together and they can just jump around. So it's really easy for me now as the post supervisor to be like, hey, Andrea, can you actually jump on the M&M Godzilla episode and not the Hype House? And she can just open it up right there in Premiere.
I never thought I'd be so intimately aware with what a Hype House is, but I am now.
And then also how Productions work is that you can do read mode only and read write mode only and lock and unlock your projects right within Productions. So no one's messing around anything if you don't want them in there if there's an accident.
Yeah, no, that actually brings up a great point. Because again, even with a kind of lean team, as quickly as you're doing this, I mean, there's always, at least in the past, there was always a little bit of room for that, whoops, you know, no, why did you change that or something like that? And this really makes it very explicit and very easy to follow. And I know, I think on the next slide is where you have the read and write indicators. Maybe we can go to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, cool. And I didn't even notice. In the next one, you've got the old process and new process too. All right, we'll get to that. But yeah, very similar. If people have previously used like the collaboration feature.
Right.
Before Productions, again, we're not changing the UI entirely. Same sort of indicators, but just so much better, so much easier.
Yeah. And you can even just toggle those indicators as well. Super easy.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
Intuitive. Yeah.
So speaking of old process versus new process.
Yes. So this is what the old process was like. We started at the beginning and now it's all living within the production panel and within Premiere. And it's just very easy to navigate and jump between. So,
and I'm wondering, like, how much time do you think? I mean, not that you've like measured it by clicks, but we actually do these studies, right?
Yeah,
where we bring in people to sort of identify how much time are you wasting just going through 1, 2, 3, 4, four menus in the Finder to get to your project. Yeah,
I'd say like 30 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you need to jump between projects, it takes a longer time. Right. It really adds up. So, but just like trying to scroll through all that, looking through it, getting to it, it's just.
I love it. I love it. So now we're going to cut back to the two of us for a second. So I know it's cool because in this deck now, you've actually, the next section is your quarantine workflow. Yes. So I imagine much of what we've seen up till now has been sort of prior to the world changing over the last couple of months.
Yeah.
But I imagine for you, because of Productions, because of some of these new things that you're now able to do, in many ways, maybe it's actually kind of similar, except now everybody's remote, but the process is, you tell me, in many ways, probably as equally efficient.
Yes.
Yes. Minus being able to see people face to face.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what we've been working out. We're actually using Google File Stream right now as our server so that we aren't transferring drives. That was what we were doing for the first week or so. It's just transferring drives to get everybody footage. But now we're all linked to Google File Stream and pulling down our projects and footage from there. So yeah, but
nice. Making it easy. So speaking of that, Google File Stream. Yeah. So here we go.
File Stream is what it looks like. Still have to organize it, but we're getting there. And just quickly going through that, this is where we hold all of our footage and storage on the next slide. But yes.
Yeah.
So these are all of our quarantine episodes that we're shooting right now currently. And then with Google File Stream, we don't have to have all of that footage because that'd be crazy on our external hard drives that we have at home.
Sure.
So we can actually choose what footage and what assets we want to be pulled down. So we just have our editors taking what they're working on and making those available offline instead of all of that footage.
So there's a couple people asking in the chats. I see we've got some comments from Daniel and from Lucas about backups and duplicates. So how much, if you can kind of narrate about that for a second, how much are you dealing in like having to back stuff up and duplicate things more for safety than, for archive purposes?
So we still have our server working at the office that'll be backing up everything. We have our IT guy, Jordan, who's great, who is making sure we're backing up all of that footage. We haven't gotten too far out with our episodes yet, but we do have a folder that we're archiving on Google Stream that will then be backed up at our office.
Nice.
That's
And
so far.
and I imagine probably now even more so than ever, just having the reliable backups and archives is so essential.
Yes.
But the nice thing is too, again, productions, one, because it's just so much easier to work with like server-based media and remote media. It just keeps everything so neatly tied together for all the like content for all the various channels. I mean, just thinking about how producing videos, 5 videos a week across 4 channels. I mean, that's just it's an insane amount of content.
It's a lot. It's
an insane. And how long are all the episodes typically?
They're about 10 to 15 minutes.
Right. So have you found that that's kind of your YouTube sweet spot? I know even a couple of years ago it was like 8 minutes was the YouTube sweet spot.
Like 5, it grew to 8, and now we're about at least 10 minutes. Yeah.
And it's interesting, right? It's interesting that where the and I haven't really seen this figure change in terms of the the attention span, like how you have to grab people, right? You've got your 8 seconds. I've heard some say 3, but I think 8 is still pretty kind of the standard. I actually heard someone say 7 the other day. I think that was just to be difficult. They were just trying to
right in the middle.
Right in the middle there. But 8 seconds attention span, and yet YouTube has found that actually slightly longer than 8-minute videos is kind of where that sweet spot is, where people want to occupy that much time in a sitting, right? Yeah. That's super interesting stuff. Yeah. All right, so let's go back to your deck here.
So this is where they can just right click on what folder or episode they want to work on, and then they'll make that available offline rather than online only, and then they'll only get the footage and assets for that one episode rather than compiling all of that onto their external hard drive, because it would explode if it did that. So
you're very honest about that. I love it. Well, yeah, and especially you just got so much data and so much stuff moving around. It makes sense. Now, I know we're kind of now segueing into sort of a complementary part of leveraging productions, which is team projects.
Yes, exactly.
And on Tuesday, my colleague Carl and he was kind of showcasing productions, and we talked a bit about team projects, and we've talked a lot about team projects over the last couple of years, but I am curious, and you kind of spell it out in this next slide, which is, again, now, especially for this, remote working from home world that we're in, this combination is what is making all of this possible without delay, right? I mean, let me ask you this. Was there a break in production time kind of because you're based in California, right?
Right, yes, correct.
So was there a break in production time when the shelter in place orders kind of came down and suddenly it's like, well, we can't go to the office?
Right.
Was there in that week or two? I mean, did you skip a video in that week or did production just keep going?
We cut down our videos right now, but we're ramping back up right now as well.
Right.
Just
and I imagine
everything out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I imagine a lot of that is just finding the new comfort zone. Unfortunately, you've got the tech behind you that enables that. But right, it's such a. I had to imagine. I was gonna say, if you didn't stop production, then that would be absolute insanity. And,
yes.
I'd want to know what you're eating to make that possible. Yeah. No, because that's really interesting, right? Because I have to imagine at all levels in FBE, you miss a video or you kind of cut down. One, you probably feel it personally, right? Like you're feeling like you're letting the fans down, the audience down.
Right.
Not unlike back in the day waiting for your favorite network TV show to appear. But, oh, no, they're not doing one this week. And, oh, they didn't even tell us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll be the first to say, I got kind of pissed when I would find out about that. Like, I was not happy about that, right?
Right.
I imagine, did you see any negative feedback or any negativity, or was everyone fairly sensitive to that?
I think people are fairly sensitive and understanding since this is pretty global. But yeah, we're just pivoting and rolling with the punches, and using team projects has just been really, really good for getting our episodes out quicker. So yeah, with team projects, we're able to edit and assemble at the same time. So we have the editor come in about in 2 or 3 hours after the assistant editor has started assembling all of our footage, and yeah, they can start cutting that same exact day instead of waiting for the entire assembly and string out to be done. And that saved us an entire day, which we're really thankful for.
Yeah, that's amazing. And really it's a proof point of how, it's funny too, because also on Tuesday, so we had Bob Lindemann from USA Today, and he produces a series there called Just the Facts. So they're doing daily 1 to 3 minute news stories, cut together in its full, like After Effects, Premiere, sound design, soundtracks, royal stock music and stuff, and a lot of stock video too. And the topics are always different. So one day it's COVID, the next day it's something else that's happening in the world, and they're pulling all this together daily. And what's interesting, and he's using team projects as well in productions, and he was saying it's almost like I've been kind of paving the way for this for the last 2 years, because they'd already been using it, but they were using it on site where they were actually all located versus being remote. And in his case, I think there was very little break at all, although still a bit of, everybody had that kind of, the bass drop shut down for a moment, like, okay, reconfigure, what do we do, how do I get my latte now? I guess I have to make it, yeah. So I think that's the end of your deck here.
That is the end of my deck, yeah.
All right. So I know we've got a lot of questions in here. Let me pull this up so I can start asking them. So let me ask you this, because again, in terms of the production that you're doing, how formulaic is, I guess it's different by show, but is there an absolute formula that you're following for each show that you're producing?
Yes, definitely. Even within that stock elements folder, we have a project template where it stores all of our assets, and it's like literally in order. We have our title card, our music bed that we use for the format, graphics that we use, and a lot of that is actually linked through After Effects. So if we need to change it or update a graphic, it'll just dynamic link it and update it. And it's super easy how well that works together.
Because I know there's always questions about channels like yours that are just producing stuff. And I think viewers are often surprised, if they're in the video space, to think that you actually do kind of work from a template. And it's not that it's an easy way out. It's that, it's part of the process of being able to produce stuff so rapidly. Exactly. And at that particular level, obviously you have a quality level that you have to meet.
Yes.
And you couldn't do it. If you tried to reinvent the wheel every day, that wouldn't be sustainable for a very long time.
It's also all unscripted. So we have to do all of those interviews, like 2+ hours of footage and interviews. So anything that we can templatize is great.
Right. So that actually brings up a great point, right? Because the content, what's being shot is not scripted. Exactly. How you want to deliver it and how the flow should be is. So I imagine there's been times where you're like, okay, we didn't quite get X, but we still need it to flow this way. So we'll just like make it work somehow, or, break the mold a bit perhaps, or something like that. I've got a couple of people asking here about your storage partner. I know you mentioned, so is all of it done with Google, or do you use any other particular?
Right now it is working from home. We use Google Drive, and then we have the Google file stream, and that's how we're pulling down our all of our data right now. But we have a huge server back at the office.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm seeing so many people saying no more duplicate clips.
Yes. So good. Yeah.
And I imagine, again, like I can't imagine in an environment like yours, if you had everybody bringing stuff in and just things are being duplicated unnecessarily in the old way, where you're working from off of a single project.
Exactly.
For one thing, again, knowing how much data you're already bringing in, just opening those old projects, it probably felt like an eternity, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's a real huge differentiator with productions, is the production opens up instantaneously, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's virtually instantaneous. There's none of that, like,
there's no lag or anything or just waiting. No, it's right there, and you have a list of all your episodes right there. You don't have to go back to your Finder or Explorer window at all.
So Jeremy on Facebook is asking, now that you are doing this sort of collaboration remotely, how much latency is there with your team projects when people are checking in changes and things? Or is there any perceivable latency?
There hasn't been any perceivable latency at all. It's been very smooth. Yeah, I'm still testing out with our team. Like, it's been great though. Like, the pivot has been really helpful, especially during this time, working from home.
No perceivable latency, says Alyssa Salter, unsolicited commentary.
That's what I've been reported by my editors. So.
No, that's awesome. I mean, and look, I know we've got people. I imagine maybe at some point, yes, of course you could incur some. And that's actually another question. So is everyone in your environment kind of fiber connected? I don't know if you're using Google Fiber or Cox, Comcast. You're not.
Not fiber connected, no.
Interesting.
I know.
So that's even cooler to hear, because even like for me, broadcasting all of this, 100% fiber. You know, I'm just nervous, so I'd be like, I need it. But it's kind of interesting that you're not all set up that way, and yet the experience is still very workable, very usable.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So David over on YouTube is asking now, do you work based on the content? I didn't ask you kind of formats and frame size. I imagine you're probably mostly shooting in 4K.
We've stepped back from that actually, but.
Oh, okay. And were you just doing it before just because it's the thing? Yeah.
And we're trying different ways to cut rather than like white flashing, which has been our format for a while.
Yeah. Stole that from you, by the way. Yeah.
It's good. It works.
It still works. There was a moment in time where it was people didn't love it because it got like overused.
Right.
It's come back though. It's like, yeah, it is. It just kind of works. Yeah. We don't want to use dissolves, right? So exactly. that is the Comic Sans of video still. You can't, no dissolving.
Right.
My old friend Carrie used to say, if you can't resolve it, dissolve it, right? You know, we don't want to use those, but the flash is good. So the question was though, are you working with proxies then?
Yes, we are currently working with proxies right now, and we're storing all of the big files over on our server at the office.
Nice. And again, so working with proxies, it just makes the process of I imagine your review process, the cutting process. Again, now that you already know sort of where things have to fall and how it has to line up, just that much more efficient, right? Again, talking about like latency issues and check-ins. If you're working with leaner, smaller proxy media, it's just a thing for time, right? I mean, you don't want to mess about and deal with like frame drop because, you know, and I imagine when you're doing color correction and things, yes, then you're looking at the full frame non-proxy media. But we make that super easy, right, with that little toggle button in the program monitor.
We use that all the time. We also upload all of our cuts to Frame.io. That's how we're doing our
that's awesome. Big partner and friend of ours.
Perfect.
Love that. And actually, that brings up another great question because I was going to ask, so in terms of review, and I know there were a couple questions here. I think Umir asked this and Lee. For review, is that primarily how you're using Frame.io, like for review and commentary, and then it comes back to you and the other editors?
Yes, exactly. So they'll actually do it in real time. We're actually testing Zoom right now to do live notes with the producer and the editors. So there aren't so many rounds that we're sending back and forth through Frame.io, but Frame.io is what we've been using at the office, and then we brought it to our homes.
Nice. They're super cool. Now, let me ask you this. Now, I may bring this up one more time because a couple people at the beginning, the first presentation today I showed, we have this new hardware guide. So basically the recommendations for what you should be using to have a good experience cutting in Premiere. And I pointed out that whereas in the past, we, among most people in the software world, they would kind of lean towards the minimum requirements, right? We've all seen that. And that comes out, I don't know who was the first person to do that, minimum requirements, but this is nothing anybody ever wants.
Right.
It's such a snake oil sell, and I don't like using expressions or colloquialisms. So snake oil is not a thing. So it's just such a fake thing, minimum nonsense because nobody wants that, and no experience is ever good with the minimum. So now what we have is kind of like, here's what we recommend for the good experience, and primarily, fundamentally, the first thing was RAM, right? I think we used to list like 8 gigs, which Premiere will work. I have an old laptop here. Sometimes I have to do stuff quickly. It's an 8 gig machine. That's all it had at the time. It's like a 10-year-old MacBook Pro or 8-year-old MacBook Pro. It's fine, but obviously it's a little slow and sluggish. Are you personally working on like the new Mac Pro, or what is your hardware setup?
I'll have to look into that. I know that this isn't the newest at all. Actually, that's my personal computer back there that I'm
nice. Okay.
That's the one that came out a year or two ago.
Yeah.
That one's really nice. I'm not actually sure what I'm using.
Oh, fair enough.
But I mean, I'm trying to look at it right now.
Oh, okay, very cool.
This is the 5K Retina, so.
Oh yeah, and that's what I'm using here. So again, it's now my machine. It's got 64 gigs of RAM. It has an 8 gig AMD video card. You probably have the similar config. 2 terabytes of SSD native storage. That's massive. Not just for the storage part, but just for like app launching and other things. This is also another little technical question that just came in from. Hold on, I just want to get the name right. From Samantha. So are you using SSDs? Kind of like do you have any particular drive configuration that you're using when you're cutting stuff? SSD versus spinning drives versus flash media or something like that?
Yeah, I think we're using the SSDs right now. I'm using an external hard drive that's very old, but it holds 2 gigs, or 2 terabytes.
2 terabytes, right? It's so funny because I work off of like this 14 terabyte RAID, which went down. I almost said a very inappropriate phrase there. That wasn't meant to be inappropriate, but it died the other day.
Right.
I'm not going to say what I almost said because it didn't. Anyway, I managed to restore it, but in the interim, I managed to get it back through Mac OS, and again, I had it cloud backed up, but I was doing a live stream that day, and that's where I needed that media, and it was like 10 gigs. So yes, I started downloading. I knew I wasn't worried that anything was gone, but it was just the idea of having it locally. Managed to find online when they could do a 2-day delivery, which is crazy with Amazon right now because most I think it was a local store though in town. That's the only reason it came within like 2 days. I couldn't even find the capacity that I needed. So I managed to go with like a 10 terabyte and then, managed to get the drive working, and then I didn't even need it, but I wound up re-archiving local. So I imagine too for you, like, do you have copies of copies locally with your external drives, or that it's all cloud stored so you can always access it if you need it?
Right. I've been at least having copies of my project files on my local drive. But that's where Google File Stream has been helping. Instead of getting all of that footage onto our external hard drive, since we do have such limited space, we're able to just pull down what we need to work on.
Awesome.
What other people are working on. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Alyssa, we are just about out of time. I got to say, too, and it's funny, since I knew that you were going to be joining us for this live video stream, the non-NAB, but in place of NAB video stream, I started to just go through all the various channels again and look at the content that you're all creating. And, first and foremost, I have to say, I think one of the things that has led to your great success is that it is, and this is such a cheesy term, but it's, first of all, it's like family friendly, right? It's sort of like legit. It makes sense. Oh, but that was a follow-up that I wanted to ask you. We've only got 2 minutes here. So with some of the changes in YouTube, having to, like, I imagine the kids react. Do you tag those as content for kids? And has that changed any of the sort of revenue and things that you're seeing by having to enact some of these new changes in how YouTube classifies video?
Yeah, we're not doing as much kids react actually, but when we do, it's for the kids.
Right.
We found that are more adults in college kids react.
Right.
YouTube, because that's the audience. But,
and I mean, I imagine you still had to go back because I know they made you go back through, right, and re-identify those things primarily. Yeah, and it was kind of a question I wanted to ask you because it's been coming up a lot, and it's, I mean, even for me, so much of what I'm doing, these are just tutorial streams and things, and it's always not for kids. Not that we're even monetizing them on Creative Cloud, but something I wanted to ask you because obviously it's going to affect your team and, you know, affect the bottom line, and these are the kind of things people want to know. But you're still rolling, you're still producing incredibly beautiful, timely, punchy content that grabs people. You keep them in there for 10 to 15 minutes, and you know, going from 1 to 34 million in 6.5 years or so is no small task. So from all of us at Adobe, sincerely want to thank you so much for joining us on this incredible video live stream. Thanks for being a guest. Thanks for being awesome. Thanks for promoting productions. It was a real pleasure to meet you. And thank all of you for watching us on Adobe Live, Behance, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter Periscope. We're going to be back tomorrow with Dave S. Simons, an Adobe fellow who's going to be talking to you about the new public beta, which is available to all of you in Creative Cloud now. You may not have even have noticed. If you open up the Creative Cloud desktop along the left-hand side, you'll see a little hourglass icon, and it says Beta Apps, where you can access all of the video and audio applications in beta. Dave's going to be talking about this program and talking about the things that you can do to get more involved. And we've got the team from Shine who created the Birds of Prey title sequence tomorrow too. So great After Effects stuff. Yeah, more content, more great stuff, more amazing customers just like you, Alyssa. And again, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And we will see you again tomorrow at 9:30 Is that what time it is? 9:30 a.m. Pacific time here on Adobe Live and everywhere else. So again, take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.